your body into this ground near your comrades. You've staked out a whole study group in this cemetery, surrounded by the thunderous ancestors. So this libation need not be long, because you poured this libation with your life. So we'll complete the ritual by adding this water to the earth that will contain your physical remains, and then reconnecting it, understanding the thing that we cannot see that surrounds us. The Europeans call it dark matter, but we know it as the Ashe. So we'll say Ashe as we pour this water first to the animating force that created all of us, that continues to create, that recreates the unmoon mover, the ones who the people in Kemet would say it is our moon, who although hidden is the source of all light, power, and health. Ashe. We pour our next libation to everything that that creative force has animated, that will continue to be, everything that was and is and will be, realizing that all of those things are simply our perception of things that are eternal. Ashe. We pour then to that creative force as it expressed itself, and we became aware of ourselves in this little corner of the universe that we call the earth, and all of the creatures that walk on the earth made of the same thing the earth and everything is made of. And we became conscious of our connection to all of those things, all of those one things as humanity. Ashe. Forward to all of our ancestors who became aware of themselves on that corner of this ball that we now refer to as Africa, a name that is not as old as Akebulan, as your comrade, Mama Kefa, as you and Baba Bill approached him in the 70s after seeing him on Gil Nova, and another ancestor, Ashe, and said, let us study. We pour to the ancestors at our Kebulan, Ashe. We pour then to their children, our ancestors who, having come aware of themselves on that continent, then began to explore the rest of the ball and walked out and became the parents of every human being who will ever walk this ball called Earth. Ashe. We pour then to our ancestors who had the good sense to stay on the continent and not go and get trapped in the ice, or go get trapped in the sand, or go have to navigate the rugged terrains, but they stayed by the rivers and the lakes, and they stayed even when the desert came. They encroached, and they went to the Great Nile Valley, and they went to the Limpopo and the Zambezi, and they went to the Senegambia region, and they went to the Niger, and they found their way and raised the great societies that we now look to for our inspiration, our instruction, and our grounding, the ones that you, Mama Kefa, taught us to study. Ashe. We poured some of those societies we know as Kemet and Kush and Monomotapa, and the great forest regions and the great savanna regions of the Western Sudan and the Central Sudan, and we know all the names. We don't need to repeat them today, because Mama Kefa, through your leadership, we have studied those, and so we need not repeat them today because they are in our hearts and in our minds. Ashe. We pour to their children, our ancestors who were set upon by their children who no longer recognize them, who had changed shape and had learned strange languages and had hacked their way through the ice, found their way back to the continent, but damaged, who set upon their mothers and fathers with a vengeance, who cast them adrift, who marched them overland to the holding cells, the barracoons in places like Ouida and Gorée, places like Fort Jesus and Mombasa, places like Cape Coast and Elmina, as we have been many times with your children, Mama Kefa, as you accompanied them with Baba Lynn and Mama Roslyn, and with everyone here, Mama Camille and Baba James and everyone here. Remind us that they set upon us and they cast us adrift into the Western Hemisphere. Ashe. We pour then to their children, our ancestors who fortified with, as what Baba Lynn would say, the African Holy Ghost, took those misshapen languages of French and Spanish and Dutch and Portuguese and all those languages, and crafted out of those languages the spirit of Africa, and in their own tongues created Vodun and Karongle and Santeria and Macumba, and kept that African spirit alive and fortified the resistance. Ashe. We pour to their children, our ancestors who, having been fortified with that resistance, raised the great resistance in Haiti with Toussaint Louverture and Cecile Fatima, and with the great Bookman Duddy, who said, cast down image of the white man's God who has brought down your tears for so long, and listen to liberty that lives in all our hearts. The great Yanga Zumba, the great Zumbi and Palmares, the great Dismal Swamp fighters, whether it be Nat Turner, whether it be Denmark Vesey or Gabriel Prosser, the great Africans who fought in Pointe Coupé in Louisiana, who fought in Stolo in South Carolina. Ashe. We pour to their children, our ancestors who fought their way out of enslavement. Some of them interred their bones in this very ground. Veterans of the Civil War who cared nothing for the American flag, but say, give me a gun so I can show these crackers that I will never go back to the plantation. And they left those places, and they came to places like New York. And case of your ancestors, Mama Kefa, leading places like Georgia and Alabama, places like Mississippi, finding their way into Buffalo, New York, finding their way into Queens, and finding their way into Yonkers, finding their way into Harlem, finding their way into Brooklyn. So if you ask where Brooklyn at, look around you. It is deeply rooted in the South. All those Africans in Philadelphia, all those Africans in Washington, D.C., and all those Africans in Cleveland, and Detroit, and Los Angeles, and Portland, and all the other places that we will not name today, realizing that they symbolize the Great Migration from the first Great Migration. Ashe? We ported their children, our ancestors who washed the clothes and mopped the floors and drove the cars and cooked the food and did all the things that they did not want to do for people who looked at them as less than human, but they did it because they knew that you were on the way, Mama Kefa, and that we were on the way behind you, and that we would not only make good their sacrifices, but we would return ourselves to the source, as you remind us all the time. Ashe? Ashe. So as we wind to the end of this libation, we want to call the name of those bloodline ancestors. Your ancestors, Mama Kefa. Our ancestors, our bloodline ancestors who made all those sacrifices. As Fannie Lou Hamer said, the bridges that we walk across. And we are now praise them by saying their names. So if people don't mind saying some of their bloodline ancestors, let's call a few names.
Willis Sutter.
Viola Jeffries. Viola Mattis.
Willis Sutter.
Harry Beaton.
Henry Manning.
Ashe. And Mama Kefa, as we call the names of our bloodline ancestors, we know that Lucille Jones came out of her mother's womb, but Kefa Neptis did not replace her, but extended her, coming back to that African source. And in doing that, you showed us the way. You modeled what we must do. And so we pour twice more. We pour to everyone who is not here physically, but who is absolutely here in spirit, who still walk the earth, who because of what you did and have done, are able to connect, because we know that the future of study for our people is not at the universities, it's not in the schools, it's in the community. And you knew that better than anybody. What you raised in the community now informs the entire world. Ashe. And finally, we pour to the beautiful ones who are not yet born, the great-great-grandchildren of the great-grandchildren of the grandchildren of the people who are in this circle right now, who will come here now, year after year, season after season, and pouring libation to you and every other ancestor who now surrounds you, because by your command, Mama Latrella said, I can't let her stay over there. She said she want to be over here. So now we got a central place to go, Mama Kefa. Thank you. And that generation who we will not see with our eyes, they will continue to lift your voice. Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
All right.